When you think of the greatest women in UFC history, a few names definitely come to mind. Women like Valentina Shevchenko, Amanda Nunes, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Chris Cyborg, Ronda Rousey. But only one woman has more wins than all of these women. Only one woman has more performance bonuses and fight of the nights than all of these women. And she is going to be the focus of today's episode. I'm talking about none other than Bate Estaca, the pile driver, Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade is one of my favorite fighters of all time, and I wanted to make this video to highlight her career and the extraordinary things she's accomplished under the UFC umbrella. Having been in the promotion since the first fights that women had in the UFC, Andrade has been all over the map. She's fought everybody. She fought Joanna, she fought Shevchenko, she fought Rose Namajunas, she fought Zhang Wei Li, she fought Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Jessica Penne, Claudia Gadelha, Tecia Torres, Raquel Pennington. The list goes on and on of, warriors that Andrade has tested herself against, and more often than not coming on the winning side. She has the most performance bonuses in women's UFC history. She has the most fight of the nights in women's UFC history. She holds a litany of records, which you'll see on the screen now. She got Submission of the Year in 2022. She's the only woman in the UFC to have wins in 3 different weight classes, as well as finishes in 3 different weight classes. It's rarefied air. Even amongst the men, only 2 men have accomplished that, and that's Jared Cannonier and Conor McGregor. She competed in the first UFC fight between 2 openly gay fighters against Liz Carmouche. She has the most bouts and wins in women's UFC history, the most bouts in a calendar year in UFC history. She's tied for the record for men, but she has the record for women. Most knockdowns in one fight in UFC history, most takedowns in a fight in UFC history, and the list goes on and on. I mean, when you're talking about a storied career, putting up numbers like that is nothing to scoff at. Jessica Andrade is an absolute legend. So let's talk about her style and what led her to kind of gaining this notoriety and wealth of experience and accolades over her UFC career. When you're talking about Jessica Andrade's style, the number one word I think everybody thinks of is aggression. Jessica is always super aggressive the whole fight, always pressuring her opponent, always putting them on the back foot and putting them in uncomfortable positions, and that's something that she can afford to do because she has tremendous cardio. It's very rare that she loses the last round of the fight. It's very rare that she's not the fresher fighter at the end of the fight, if it gets to that point. And part of the reason that she's able to maintain that cardio dominance over her opponent is because she is one of the most prolific body punchers in women's MMA history. She goes to the body often and early in the fight. She'll throw hooks to the body and then hooks to the head, a la John Lineker. She has, phenomenal leg kicks when she decides to use them. We saw a lot of that in the second Rose Namajunas fight. Big power in her hands for sure. Slightly sloppy technique, I think, is not crazy to say. She's kind of more of a winger and pressure and make you freak out kind of fighter than like a clean technical boxer. But she has huge power in her hands, and she's pretty durable on the feet as far as her chin goes. She's been able to take some big shots. And then when it comes to the grappling, that's a whole nother aspect of her game that is, nothing to sniff at. Jessica Andrade, her name is Bate Estaca. It means the pile driver in English, and that is her signature move, is her single leg high crotch slam, also known as the pile driver. It's a huge slam that she lands on a lot of her opponents. Some of my favorites were against Claudia Gadelha. Obviously, the one that won her the belt against Rose Namajunas is iconic. Tecia Torres, suffered a couple of those as well. And when she does get to the ground, she has scary ground and pound. She's punished a lot of women on the ground, racking up multiple strikes to the body, to the head, and just putting them in bad positions. I think the Claudia Gadelha fight is the best example of this. The Tecia Pennington fight as well is a great example of this. Larissa Pacheco as well. And on that note, she, on top of great ground and pound and top pressure, has some really sneaky submissions. She got Larissa Pacheco, who, recently beat, or is the most recent loss on Kayla Harrison's record. She beat her by submission in the first round with a sneaky guillotine choke that she went to the mount with. She submitted Amanda Lemos, a woman who's never been submitted before, with a standing arm triangle. It looked like something out of Hitman. It was absolutely insane. So Andrade has a super well-rounded game plan and is super aggressive in every facet of the fight. Some of these key performances that I've been kind of brushing over, but just to put them all out on a list for you, include that first round submission over Larissa Pacheco, a second round TKO over Jessica Andrade when she went down to strawweight for the first time. And then there were some really great fights that didn't end in finishes in her career at strawweight. Fights against Angela Hill, phenomenal fight. Highly recommend you go back and watch that if you haven't seen it before. The Claudia Gadelha fight is another banger that really showcases Andrade's full skill set in the octagon. The Tisha Pennington fight, or Tisha Torres at the time, was another banger that showcased Andrade's full skill set, albeit not to the ferocity of the Claudia Gadelha fight, but still a very prominent example. Both Rose Namajunas fights, the first one where she won the belt for the first time with that huge slam, and the second one where she looked like a whole different fighter and fought honestly kind of like Mike Tyson. It was crazy to see Andrade with some side-to-side movement and peekaboo style. In my opinion, she won that fight, but the judges gave it to Rose either way. And then when she went to flyweight, she had an awesome first-round knockout over Kaylin Chukagian. She also finished Cynthia Calvillo as well. The Amanda Lemos standing arm triangle that I briefly mentioned earlier that looked like something out of a Hitman game. Crazy finish. Submission of the year in 2022 it got. And then most recently, a great fight of hers is her beatdown of Mackenzie Dern, where she beat the piss out of Mackenzie Dern and broke the record for the most knockdowns in a women's UFC fight. Andrade has a litany of these incredible fights throughout her career, and honestly, it's one of the most exciting and entertaining careers to go back and watch. So I highly recommend you guys check out those fights I just listed on UFC or Fight Pass or ESPN Plus or anywhere you can find these fights. Highly recommend them. I'm sure there's a few on YouTube. But in summary, let's wrap it up real quick. Jessica Andrade is an awesome fighter, a crazy action fighter who always brings it and is always down for a good scrap. Whether she's going to be doing the killing or she's going to be getting killed, you can expect action out of her. She is a powerful fighter with a tenacious style that's always putting her opponent in uncomfortable positions and taking advantage of where she can, whether it be on the ground or on the feet with her pressure. She has some all-time great fights in women's MMA history. The Gadelha fight, the Rose fights, the Tisha Torres fight, the Angela Hill fight. Like, these are some phenomenal fights in women's MMA history, and Andrade is half of most of them. And just to sum it all up, Jessica Andrade is one of the best women's fighters in UFC history, in MMA history in general. She's an absolute pioneer, a legend of the sport. She has awesome fights, great finishes, an awesome style that really is only tailor-suited to her. And in my opinion, she's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I'll be shocked if she doesn't make it to the Hall of Fame when she decides to hang up her gloves. Andrade is now slated to fight against Lupita Godinez, and she looks to turn back the clock one more time and punch in another classic performance here. She will have her hands full with the standout wrestler, but if Andrade has taught us anything over her career, it's to never counter out and to always tune in. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I just wanted to do a quick career retrospective of one of my favorite UFC fighters of all time. Let me know if you like the new format. Let me know if I should add anything or change anything, and I appreciate y'all. Check out my other historical pieces. I've got one on Robert Whittaker out. I've got one on Alexei Oleinik out. There's more coming down the pipeline. I appreciate y'all, and you guys have a lovely day and a lovely rest of your week. Peace out, y'all.